What's up, guys? Today I'm finally bringing to you the long-teased second part of the Advanced Strategy series. In this one, we're focusing on out-of-sync switch timers. Now, mastering how to play a scenario with an out-of-sync switch timer can not only help you in games where you're behind and you need to claw back an advantage, but it can also help you in games where you're ahead and you need to push an advantage. So I'll be discussing both of those techniques as we go through this today, but I can't stress how important paying attention to your switch timer and being able to leverage this situation can be in some of these very high level games. So once again, as usual, I'm going to go over the basics. Luckily for you guys, there's not too much about the basics on the switch timer. So when a player switches a Pokemon out, you can no longer make another switch for another 60 seconds, full minute, and this is currently displayed over your available Pokemon to switch into with a little bit of a clock over it. Most of you guys already know that. And it's not paused at all during the charge move mini games or deciding what Pokemon to bring in after one faints, and I'm pretty sure it's not paused by lag either. So it's just a straight 60 seconds. It is what it is. So the important links you need to know: switch timer 60 seconds. Can't say that enough. Every charge move is approximately 10 seconds, and the longest possible wait after a Pokemon faints is approximately 10 seconds as well. So you might be thinking, oh, okay, so 6 charge moves is 60 seconds. Well, there's also that time in between charge moves. Rule of thumb for me is if both Pokemon have gotten a chance to use 2 charge moves, and the switch timer should be pretty much over at that point. And if it's not, then waiting for your Pokemon to faint afterwards would definitely constitute the rest of that 60-second clock. So let's get into some examples. Boring parts over, guys. Let's take a look at how a switch timer gets out of sync in the first place. It doesn't benefit you guys a lot for me to just tell you how to deal with it. It's like, oh, the switch timer got out of sync, but being able to force an out of sync switch timer is something that will help you win games as well. So the two main ways that switch timers get out of sync is, the first way is that one person swaps really slowly. It makes sense, right? Sometimes a way that people use to guarantee switch advantage is throwing a move on the switching in Pokemon, and that'll delay the switch timer a little bit, right? If 2 moves are thrown, guess what? It's about 50%. Like I said, rule of thumb, 4 charge moves. So if 2 charge moves are thrown, 50% of that switch clock is approximately going to be up, and you guys are going to have completely out of sync switch timers, which happens a lot more often than not, and you can even force that situation pretty easily as well. Then the second scenario is a bit rarer, and this is how is when one person swaps, but the other person stays in and beats their Pokemon with their lead. So it's someone trying to leverage a safe swap position and trying to scare out the lead, where that doesn't work, and the person realizes, hey, my lead is good against this Pokemon. I can deal with that, no problem. So let's take a look. I've got a couple of video examples of each. Fortunately, my go. So how does this happen? So let's take a look at this. So this is scenario 2 first, actually. Sorry. This is when one person, they swap into their Frostlass, but guess what? Victreebel has a good matchup versus Frostlass. I'm going to stay in, beat their Frostlass, take that out, and now they've switched and I haven't. So their switch timer is about half done, and mine isn't. So this is an out of sync switch timer. Now when I switch, guess what? My switch timer is at 0, but theirs is about halfway done. So it's still an out of sync switch timer scenario. How else? This is scenario number 1. Sorry, I have these in the wrong order, guys. This is swapping into my Swampert here, and I noticed that they're swapping very slowly on their Snorlax, likely wanting to throw a Body Slam or a superpower to weaken my Swampert up. So I throw this Hydro Cannon, and now, because they're throwing this move before they get out, guess what? Switch timer is out of sync yet again. So as you can see, my switch timer was about half done by the time they've come in. So once again, rule of thumb, 2 charge moves, right? So now that I've kind of told you how this might happen in your games and how you can maybe force it, let's take a look at how to push your advantage and how to kind of claw back your advantage. And both of these come in different scenarios. So example 1, this is an example of how to push your advantage. What I'm saying is you have an advantageous lead. They swap out. This was the first video you saw on the last slide, or the second point was you have the advantageous lead. They swap out into a Pokemon that your lead still beats and you stay in and beat it. The problem is you need a this scenario isn't as common because you generally need a high fast damage Pokemon, high fast move damage Pokemon, high damage fast move Pokemon. There we go. Third time's the charm to do this, because otherwise the switch timer isn't half done, it's just fully done. So let's take a look at how this works out. That's why you're going to see a lot of Shadow Victory Bell clips here, because it is a common example. So we have Whiscash. They switch into Dugong. This is a Pokemon that Victory Bell still beats. In this case, my backline, Mandibuzz is not good against this, so I decided to stay in and just keep switch advantage here for the easy win, because my Victory Bell can take on a Whiscash with just 20% health even. So they swap into Rapidash, and I'm going to swap into Mandibuzz right away. So now we have out of sync switch timers, and you notice that I switch into Mandibuzz. My best counter for Rapidash is not Mandibuzz, it's Probopass, right? But I'm swapping into my second best Pokemon. So push your advantage. In this case, you switch into your second best Pokemon, even though they're locked for a little bit. And look, their switch timer comes back up, and they come out with Whiscash. So now I still have that matchup of Probopass versus their Rapidash preserved in the end, and my Mandibuzz is going to be able to deal heavy damage to this Whiscash and force this Whiscash to spend its energy. And even at this point, I could even, it's a bit too late now, but I could have even thought about switching back into my Victory Bell, because guess what? This Whiscash is locked in. I make a bit of a mistake here by actually waiting down the switch timer. I don't need to do that because my switch timer was already up. So in this case, I'm going to be able to take this energy that I have on Victory Bell and combine it with Probopass, having a pretty dominating matchup versus Rapidash. And I'm going to be able to beat this Rapidash and a little bug that I like to call not actually CMPing, when I'm pretty sure you're supposed to CMP and Rapidash gets the second move off. So Probopass lives a drill run, so it honestly is pretty comfortable, this matchup. So we're going to look at another example, I think, here. And in this example, I think we're going to see an example on number 2, how to reduce your disadvantage. So in this case, we have Victory Bell versus Altaria. This is not a good lead in any sort of the word, but what is going to happen here, and I'm just going to foreshadow it a little bit. When I'm talking about how to reduce your disadvantage, I'm saying in a bad lead, if you swap into a safe swap that they don't have an immediate answer for, and they kind of need to soften up before they bring in their own Pokemon, what you can do is throw a charge move as well. And if they throw a charge move, which they will need to do if they want to weaken your Pokemon, then you're going to have an out of sync switch timer, and I'm going to show you how to play around that. And this is the more common example. You don't need a strong fast move Pokemon in the lead. I just have a Shadow Victory Bell example here because I was it just kind of goes to show I leveraged the out of sync switch timer multiple times in this game to come back from a case where they have a dominating lead, a dominating closer, and a mirror, in this case, switch. So let's take a look. I'm going to switch right up to my Vigoroth. You'll see this was before the switch timer got changed. So the switch timer is on this little bottom right switch menu. It's no longer there, but this is an old video. I've been saving these clips for a while. So in this case, I realized they haven't switched. They're waiting for me to throw a body slam, which is great for me. I've been saving these body slams because they're going to hurt whatever comes in, and in comes their own Vigoroth. So in this case, we have the switch timer is a bit out of sync. I have my switch timer almost up, and theirs has just begun. Well, they're about 1/4 through. I'm 3/4 through. So now I bring in my Victory Bell right away, and I take down this Vigoroth. Now mine is up, and theirs isn't for another 30 seconds or so. They wait down the switch timer smartly, but I'm able to bring back in my Bastiodon into this Altaria because their switch timer is not up yet. So you have to look for that opening where you can bring your Pokemon back in when their switch timer is still off. And you notice I did not wait. I'm going to pause here because there's still stuff going on. I did not wait for the switch timer to bring my Victory Bell back in on their Vigoroth because I knew that my switch timer was up and theirs wasn't. I see lots of players, lots of legend players, people front page of the leaderboard players, they wait the switch timer for no reason all the time. And this is an area of the game that I think almost everyone can improve on. I make mistakes on this all the time because playing around the switch timer is a fine balance. And if you have an advantage, don't wait. Like you're just giving that away. So in this case, now their switch timer is finally up. They were able to switch into their Azumarill. So once again, we have an out of sync switch timer. Mine is half done, and theirs has just begun. So in this case, Bastion's incredibly tanky. Azumarill as well. So this matchup is going to take a while, and there's a good chance I'm going to be able to get all the way back around. They throw an Ice Beam, which I correctly call and don't shield. And I throw my Stone Edge, mainly to wear down the clock. Because now I can bring in Victory Bell. And guess what? Once again, their Azumarill here is locked in against my Victory Bell. So I'm kind of taking this disadvantageous matchup where they have a hard counter for every single one of my Pokemon, and I leveraged it into having it so they get half of a switch timer, 30 seconds of hard countering me. I get 30 seconds of hard countering them. They get 30 seconds of hard countering me. I get 30 seconds of hard countering them. And just switching it, flipping the script a little bit like that and not letting the switch timers get realigned, I'm able to win this otherwise unwinnable game. So this is that's a pretty advanced example of it, where we can see multiple times I'm trapping their Pokemon in despite not having technically switch advantage. I've turned switch disadvantage into half switch advantage, I guess you can call it. Not very elegant. So let's take a look at this last example. It's just another example of this. I don't leverage it as much this time, and this one goes to show that it doesn't need to be exactly half offsetting, right? It can just be a quarter. So in this case, Shadow Hitmonchan throws the Thunder Punch, and they switch out right before I can force. Like, I was trying to force an offset switch timer, but they switch right before. That's fine. So what's happened here is I now am at about halfway on my switch timer, and they're about 1/4. So we're 1/4 offset because they only got to throw one move. In this case, I let my Azumarill go down. I wait my switch timer a little bit because I want to finish off this Hypno, and I want my switch timer to be done, but not theirs. So you notice I waited about 5 seconds. I didn't wait 10. I didn't go immediately. I was trying to time it, and immediately the Shadow Hitmonchan comes back in, and instead of it just being able to switch out and bring in whatever to deal with my Rainy Cast form, I'm able to start chipping down that really dangerous Shadow Hitmonchan. So they bring back in their Alolan Muck, and my goal right here is I absolutely need to save this Rainy Cast form for Shadow Hitmonchan. It's the only way I'll be able to take it down. The counters deal too much damage to my Abomasnow for me to let that happen. And luckily, we still both have a couple shields. So we are spending them. Well, I'm spending my charge moves to try and wear down the switch timer. So guess what? After this charge move, switch timer will be up. And my goal is to go back into this Abomasnow to either, well, it's not really catching a move, but he's forced to throw his move because his switch timer isn't up. If his switch timer is up, he's switching to Hitmonchan, and I lose the game because they have a banked move on the Muck for Rainy Cast form. And in this case, I'm going to barely be able to take down this Hitmonchan before it gets to a charge move. And none of this would have been possible if there wasn't that offset of the switch timer, even if it was just a quarter of the clock. So the third example was mainly just to show that you don't need a fully offset switch timer to do this. You only need a little bit of an opening. Even 10 seconds of a Pokemon farming down another Pokemon may make it impossible for a certain counter to come in against it. Like Azumarill without energy is food for Shadow Victory Bell, but Azumarill with 5 bubbles, guess what? Shadow Victory Bell with no shields can't come in anymore. And Shadow Victory Bell with 1 shield can't beat it anymore. So it is a way for you to make your Pokemon dangerous when they normally wouldn't be. But yeah, that's it for this video. Feel free to ask me any questions in the comments, and I'd love to hear some suggestions on what you guys want me to cover next. I feel like the next kind of mechanics video won't be an advanced mechanics video, but I do really want to go back to the basics and kind of cover move counting and maybe some advanced applications of move counting. I'm not talking your own moves like I've covered in the past, but I'm talking your opponent's moves. I do think it is one of the most important things in this game. But yeah, if you like this kind of content, feel free to let me know. Hit that subscribe button, venture over to Patreon or Discord or Twitter or what have you. Just happy you guys are watching, and I'm happy the Pokemon Go community as a whole seems to be improving so much at this game. The battles have been much harder this season. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys.